The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. So it is that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and smeared the clay on his eyes and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." But others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on a Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was a division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" He said, "He is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight, until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. They asked them, "Is this your son who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age. Question him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He replied, "If he's a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already and you did not listen. Why? Do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" They ridiculed him and said, "You are that man's disciples. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from." The man answered and said to them, "This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything." They answered and said to him, "You were totally blind in sin, and you are trying to teach us?" Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, for the one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord," and he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not also blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, 'We see,' so your sin remains." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus. Each year, the church has the great privilege to welcome men and women who have gone through the rite of Christian initiation of adults as they complete their sacraments of initiation at the Easter Vigil. This is a grace-filled time in the lives of our candidates, as it is also a time for us to celebrate a growing faith community. Today, this fourth Sunday of Lent, is called Laetare Sunday, a word that means rejoice. That is why we wear rose or pink colors rather than the penitential purple color, as a visual reminder to rejoice as we grow ever closer to that day when Jesus conquered death itself in his Easter resurrection. We may recall that last week we heard about a miracle of conversion with a Samaritan woman at the well. On this Laetare Sunday, Holy Mother Church presents us with a physical miracle when Jesus heals a man born blind. As the miracle unfolds, Jesus teaches us that sickness is not a result of sin, but rather it is that the good works of God might be made visible in our world. We also learn that this miracle is not instantaneous, as Jesus first anoints the man by placing mud over his eyes, and then tells the man to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And we might wonder, what is the biblical significance of washing in this particular pool of water? Bible historians tell us that a number of rabbinic traditions identified this pool of water as the Messiah's pool, since it was the only source of fresh water within the walls of ancient Jerusalem. By doing this, Jesus is teaching the people that he is the Messiah, who offers God's love, mercy, and salvation for all people, even on the Sabbath, by giving sight to the blind and setting the captives free. In our world today, millions of people still have not heard the name of Jesus or refuse to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. But for those of us who do believe, we, the church, take comfort in the words that Jesus spoke in John's gospel account when he said, "Truly I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I do and will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. Whatever you ask in my name, I will do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son." As we celebrate Laetare Sunday and consider this extraordinary promise that Jesus made to his church, I want to share a true story about two modern-day miracles of healing and conversion in our day. Some years ago, my family joined 40 other people from neighboring towns to make a 10-day Marian pilgrimage. One of the pilgrims, named Maria, quickly became a thorn in everyone's side, as her critical nature mimicked Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street. After a 15-hour air flight, we safely arrived at our lodging. Then after dinner, the local guide announced, "Get a good rest, because tomorrow morning we shall begin our pilgrimage by climbing a mountain and praying the Stations of the Cross, as we slowly make our ascent to the mountaintop to a cross as we will pray the rosary." Upon hearing this, Maria gave a laundry list of reasons why she couldn't climb the mountain, even though a dozen people volunteered to help her. After breakfast, though, the entire group began walking towards the mountain, being extra careful to not fall into one of the many potholes that littered the roadway. No sooner did we reach the mountain base when everyone heard a blood-curdling scream that sounded like Maria had just been hit by a car. We turned and saw Maria lying in the road, with her leg twisted in a big pothole. I said to my wife, talk about having a bad day. Even if Maria's leg isn't broken, there's no way she's going to climb that mountain. As Maria wailed in pain, the guide asked a few strong men to lift Maria to safety, as the rest of the pilgrim group began praying each station and carefully helping each other ascend the rocky terrain. About an hour later, we reached the cross and took a well-deserved rest. And then, a few hours later, we safely navigated down the mountain and went to an open-air restaurant for a cold soda. And who do we see approach our table? Maria, all by herself, slowly limping toward us with a swollen black and blue leg. She sat down directly across from my wife, myself, and another pilgrim named Veronica. Maria was exhausted in her pain. She told us that some people offered to carry her up and down the mountain, but the pain in her leg was too much to endure. So she decided to just sit and rest her leg. With genuine compassion for her condition, I asked Maria if I could pray for her. Then Veronica added, Yes, pray for her leg. That needs healing. I said, I shall pray for Maria, but it's not her leg that needs healing. It's her heart. Even as I said those words, I didn't fully comprehend their meaning. I added it, and it's not her heart muscle or organ. It's something in Maria's spiritual heart that needs healing. So I stood, went around the table, and just touched Maria's shoulder. Immediately, she collapsed in her chair that she was sitting in into a deep sleep. I said, Maria's out like a light. God must be doing something very special for her. So I returned to my seat, and we continued to talk about our mountaintop experience while we're waiting for Maria to wake up so we can find out what happened. 15 minutes later, Maria opened her eyes with a big smile, and she shouted, It's gone! It's gone! We asked, What's gone, Maria? I feel wonderful. I can't believe it's gone. What happened to you, Maria? What did God do? She said, My son was murdered 18 years ago in New York City, and I had such hatred for the man who killed him. My life became a living nightmare for the last 18 years. But now that hate is all gone. I feel so happy, so peaceful. I can forgive my son's murderer, and I shall pray for his conversion each day. As we listened to Maria's story, we were speechless. Not only did God heal Maria's leg, but she was transformed into a gentle, warm, lovable grandma that every pilgrim wanted to spend time with. It's also noteworthy that our gospel took some time to complete the blind man's healing. Well, Maria's miracle also took some time to complete. Later that evening, when Maria told her roommate how God healed her leg and removed the hatred she had toward her son's murderer, the roommate burst into tears. Only then did the roommate declare that her son had also been murdered in Philadelphia 15 years before. And in that moment, the roommate was also fully healed from hatred. The following morning, the entire pilgrim group learned that both women were healed by God's grace, love, and forgiveness. My brothers and sisters, truly today is a day to rejoice. Not only when we hear about the wonderful miracles that Jesus performed when he walked this earth 2,000 years ago, but also the countless miracles that God still does in our lives. When Catholics just like you and I use our spiritual gifts in cooperation with God's grace to effect physical and spiritual healings in the lives of people we meet. Truly, this is why we celebrate Laetare Sunday, to give God all the glory and praise that we might tell others. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son so that everyone who believes in him might not perish, but have eternal life.